morning. Dr. Al here. This is a recording of a webinar I did September 25th, 2015 as part of my Chaos Clinic. This is the first ever Chaos Clinic webinar. It's about 45 minutes long and it's about energy field trading. You should watch this video in full screen because this video is a compression of the webinar screen due to the YouTube video requirements. If you were lucky enough to watch the webinar in real time, you saw charts quite clearly. On this video, they'll be a little bit fuzzy, but if you watch it in full screen, you can see what it is I'm pointing at and talking about. There are some glitches in the audio. The first few words I said didn't get recorded and things like that. But other than some minor techno-crap items, I think that you will enjoy this 45-minute little presentation on my work, which I lump under the general title of Energy Field Trading. Top of your team viewer, there are several. Third one over is a chat. Okay, I'm seeing for nearly 2 decades with the type in the technology is going to change that a lot. And big advantage for me is I can see I've finished up some Chaos Clinics and I was sure that no one was there. I have who are diehards. DPP, I know, is a sort of going to do on TeamViewer this morning. Oh yes, okay. One of you is clicking on the screen, and when you do that, it puts an arrow up on my screen about or where you're pointing to. Okay, cursor up there. You see on the screen right now is the little interface that I use in messages on the Chaos Clinic. So I am now going to say 10 o'clock. Oops, mistyped the 10 o'clock. TeamViewer presentation in session. So I'll save that. Anyone who looks at the Chaos Clinic page will know shifted over to TeamViewer. Now I'm going to park this and I'm going to show you a couple of charts. The purpose of doing the Chaos Clinic is manyfold, but mostly it was originally designed to teach you a little bit about trading. And I've probably over-focused on trading the moon tides. And that's because the moon is a very strong influence on the market. And you can see that
on the intraday charts, but this is a chart. Let me take this chart here, get it out of the way. Okay, now, this chart is a chart that covers several days in the S&P. This red and white line are S&P 3-minute bars. And this is last Thursday, Friday, and this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and now into Friday here. Now, when I point at things, it may be hard to see my cursor, so I'm going to point at individual things, and I hit my control button, and it'll put rings around where I'm pointing at, so it's easier for you to see. Okay, now what I have put on this chart, first of all, you can see price, and you can see 2 moving averages, actually 3 moving averages. Those moving averages are not independent of price. They're dependent upon price. So in a way, they are just price regurgitated. Now, what most people, in fact, practically no one understands, is that behind this price chart is a set of
electric field flux lines.
That are generated by the universe. Basically, it's the sun is the source of most of our energy. How much energy is emitted by the sun is controlled by motion of the planets, and it can cause the amount generated to change by 2%. But that's 2% of a very big number. When that energy flows from the sun to the earth, our moon intercepts it and changes how much actually affects the earth. Now, these electric field flux lines, I'll point out here, the yellow ones here are the 8th harmonic. And notice there are ones that go up and down. God requires symmetry. When an electric pulse hits the earth, it goes 2 ways, which has a positive and negative effect. So there are upgoing and downgoing electric field flux lines. Now, harmonic, I mean divisions of the circle. When I say this flux line here is on the 8th harmonic, that means that 8 times in one rotation of the moon around the earth, there will be a flux line. This one up here, the magenta ones are in the 6th harmonic. So every 6 times going around the moon going around the earth, there will be a flux line. And then the 5th harmonic is this little green one. So what we have is we have, just based on the harmonics, 3 major components caused by the moon. Now I'm going to start here and go through this chart a little bit at a time and show you what happened since the Fed meeting day, which was last Thursday. The Fed meeting day, prices had risen going into it and were rising. And right in here is the announcement. And the announcement shot up to a downgoing magenta harmonic, which is 6th harmonic. Then they dropped down here, hit the downgoing 8th, and then the upgoing 8th. They turned back around, broke back up to the 6th and got up here to the 5th, and then they died. And prices dropped the rest of the day down to this point. Now there's time missing in this chart. I don't have a 24-hour market here. I have what I call a spliced 8-hour market. It goes from 8:30 or 8:15 Eastern to 4:15 Eastern. And that's where most of the volume is. It's an hour before the outcry open, but that catches the reactions to the economic reports. The S&P is very sensitive to those. Okay, now if you look here, there was resistance coming down this 8th harmonic of the moon. On Monday, there's possible support here at the green line, the 6th harmonic. We opened below that and went down almost to the 8th harmonic. We came back up here, and here's where the moving average just petered out. So here the market was struggling. Now it didn't stop at the harmonic, but it stopped at the midpoint between these two lines right here. And that's where there's a balance point. So anytime that you have two opposing lines, there's a balance point between them, and that's where chaos comes in. Because once that balance is tipped, so once it started down off this tipping point, it did not get the support here on the green line. It had a high probability of going down here. Now near the end of the day, it got support on the 8th harmonic. The next day, which is over the weekend, there's a little bit of overnight or weekend buying, got up here, got up to this green, tried to go higher. And not everything is controlled by these flux lines. It's just that they are highly influential. But once we came back down through this, and you see this exponential moving average just came up and touched right there. We came down here, so green says we're down. Magenta and 6th harmonic is a little support. And here we got a vibration between one going up and one going down. Here's the balance point between the two of them right here, and managed to work up here into the close. So Monday at the close, you could have thought, well, okay, we've come back down here, we've made A, B, C, D, E, and I'm an Elliott waiver, and I'm going to buy that close. If you did, you would have been sorry, because the balance point was right here between the green and the magenta. And the overnight trading dropped below that. Once it dropped below that, it continued down until it found support on the 8th harmonic. It found resistance here on the 6th harmonic. But now you can see, I want you to notice one thing. The slope of these moon lines, is the same as the slope of this longer moving average. And that's because that moving average is set to a length to try to track the moon. And we come down on these harmonics. This is a lower low, but it is a lower low on a moon flux. And this is not a point to be selling a breakout of the low, because this moon flux was support, even though it was kind of downward going support. And then we bounced up here. we got up to the sixth harmonic line here. Next day, we're opening up on a fifth harmonic. Now remember, the fifth harmonic up here turned it down. This is that same downgoing fifth harmonic that has slid down over the weekend. So this downgoing line had dropped to here. So this green line here is actually the same as that, this one here, here, and here, they're the same line. So the fifth harmonic is sort of killing things here. And as we come down here, we got a little bounce here, but here's that same fifth harmonic, still killing things. Okay, now, again, fifth harmonic near the end of the day yesterday, or no, this is Wednesday. Drop overnight. Down here, here's a fifth harmonic support. For the first time, instead of being a depressor, the fifth harmonic moon energy was being supportive. Here's a little bit of arguing over whether we have support or resistance here. We got a little bit above the moon harmonic here, and then we broke above the downgoing fifth harmonic here. So this level right here at 1908 was the balance level between the two fifth harmonics. Now overnight, we shot all the way up to this point here, and that is a sixth harmonic, or no, the yellow's eighth harmonic. Eighth harmonic was a resistance point. Now, midway between the two eighth harmonic here, at this level right here, 1935 is the balance level. Here's the support level down here. And today we are prices are under the major influence of the eighth harmonic. So a good guess for today is that our range will be limited at the end of the day to this point here, or if we continue to slide, this point here. Now, I want to point, if you look at this from the terms of a simple chaos clamshell, this is probably a 1 here, a 2 here, a 3 here, a 4 here, 5 here, or a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's a possibility that from this point up here to down here, we have a complete fractal pattern. If so, we might have the start of another fractal here. So if this is a 7, we're done. If it's a 5, then this would be a 6, which is not outrageous, and we could slide down here. So like most Fridays, there's not a lot of movement and volume unless the big guys are upset. And then they can move it. But right now, just looking at this, I think we're trapped in this range. And what I'm going to be looking for Monday, we have a more interesting pattern. We have 2 of those moon flux crossing over right here. This is the 5th harmonic and the 6th harmonic. The ratio of 5 to 6 forms one of the notes in the musical scale. But just looking at this chart, this is a chart I use to kind of put things in context for how I might day trade. And it is also a useful chart for doing things like trading longer term, maybe with options or whatever. So that's my presentation on the longer term influence of the moon. Okay, see a comment, very easy to see. That's what I like about TeamViewer. It's great. It is great at transferring graphics to your computer. Okay, if there are any questions, type them in the chat room or shout them out and I'll answer them. Okay, I see a little cursor from Pia. Come on, no questions? I couldn't have been that clear. Okay, well, let me ask a question then. Do you like this chart? Should I put it on the website? Type in your answer or speak up. The prognosis for today is a relatively dull market. And I see a big vote for putting it on the website. Okay, that takes some programming work, but I'll look into that. At that point, I'm going to conclude this portion of it. I need to go in. I've been recording it so I can make a video out of it. I'm going to go turn off my recorder now and show you. Well, wait, maybe I don't want to turn off the recorder. I do many things other than just day trade the S&P. In fact, I right now I'm not trading anything because I'm doing a lot of computer work and such. I do have a couple of trades going on in a stock called Fitbit. So what I do is to make my research honest, I'd like to find a stock IPO that has a chart, and a Fitbit is one of them. This is my Fitbit chart, and I'm just going to show it to you briefly. Fitbit went public on 6/18, and its chart said it should be a high energy chart. It has a lot of Moon Mercury energy in it. And it went public at 30 and shot up to over 40. The day of the IPO drifted back to 33, had this wonderful run up and had a spike top up here. Now these lines coming across the screen here are probably going to make your eyes blur, but they're electric field flux lines, and I'm not going to explain them all, except just to show you kind of the drift of things. The magenta lines are Mercury, and Mercury is big in the markets. The speed of Mercury shows up in every market, one way or the other. This spike came on the day that the company made their first progress report after the IPO. And it caused a spike and a sell-off. But I want to point out to you that there are sort of harmonic levels down here. See this level around 33 here? Here's one step up, 2 steps up. Ignore that spike. But from there to there is a 2. 1 came back down to 2. And I was very fortunate. I made some money on the run up. I should have made a little more, except the day this happened, I happened not to be watching the market. But I rebought it back here based upon its EXCO chart. Bought some here, and it's going up sort of the way I want. I'm not going to go into all of the technology that I do this with, but just so you know that my primary effort is to understand how markets work, and that all starts with understanding how the natal chart works and how the energy fields influence markets. Now, as a little guy, you have to be aware that big players don't like you. I like to think of elephants dancing, and we're little piss ants. They will crush you if you annoy them. And if someone learns about you, decides you're a big shot trader, thinks they know what they're going to do, they'll figure out who you're trading through, find out what trade you put on, and as soon as you put it on, they're going to kill it. That is possible in the short term, but not even the most vicious big guy can fight the natural energy cycles. And, so all of my work is focused on finding out what those cycles are. And so far over time, it's done me well. God's been good to me. Okay, I'm going to dump my Fitbit chart, and I'm going to bring over. This is just some work in progress. This is the Euro futures. I'm working on trying to come up with a trading system. This is multiple days. I have some technical problems in this chart. I've written my own data collector, and there's some glitches in the coming from Interactive Brokers. So don't take this as a finished product. But what this chart does, through various techniques, I figured out what, think of a market as a radio station, and you have to figure out what frequency it's on, and then you have to be able to tune into it. And what I've done is I've tuned in to a frequency that is very strong in the euro. And this line going up looks like a super fast moving average. It's not. It's a cycle follower. And all I do at the top of the cycle, you see where it's turning down here, is if it turns down enough, then I switch sides. And this system is an always in system, kind of scary because it has no stops. Or actually it has stops, but they're very wide. Now, if you notice on this chart, okay, this chart has to redraw because it's not a real-time program. It's a dumb little program I wrote that redraws the chart periodically. Okay, right up here, if you look very closely, you can see the gray line is the cycle and the brown line is the stop and reverse. When it reverses enough, then it'll say, okay, we have turned. Now what I plot down below here is the difference between these two lines. I take the absolute value of that, and that tells me how confident the system is in this trade. Doesn't mean it'll win, but it sort of gives me a warning that this system might be ready to change position. That information can be useful if you drill down on a shorter term chart. Yesterday I was watching this run up right here, and I knew that this peak right here was going to probably end this trade because I was looking at some higher frequency stuff. But at any rate, everyone in the world is trying to build a program that'll trade the markets and make money for them. And I'm no different than anyone else. It's just that I approach the problem from a very different direction. I try to figure out where the natural energies are flowing, because I want to be going with the hurricane that not even the biggest player can run from. So one of those is right here. If this has been a real trade, that's really a beauty. This one's not bad. Then, like most trading systems, you get into an area of chop. Now, there are money management techniques that can be used to improve the return I have here. When this redraws, I'm going to stop it and just look at what this system would have done over the past 30 trading days, which is by no means a thorough back test. Okay, I'm going to stop this right here. This little line here, this says it's short, tells me it went short here. And this last trade here, yesterday, it made one tick. Manual supervision, I would have been out up here and I'd had more. I have not put money management into this. Money management would say that you trade 2 contracts, maybe 3, but you take a little bit off on the first one, a little more on the second one, then you let the third one run. That won't give you the maximum theoretical results, but it does a very nice thing for your equity curve. But what I like here is that in 30 trading days, it only made 17 trades. So it's not a crazy day trader, but it is picking up high frequency of the moon roughly every 2 days. I like the net, because if I started with $10,000 in this period, I would have doubled my money. That'd be marvelous if this were real. What I like over here is that for every dollar I lost, I made $3.24. This win-loss ratio will also show up in trading systems. I think TradeStation calls it profit factor. Most people are ecstatic if they get to 1.05. Good trading systems run by the Flash Boys are probably up 1.8. But I think, I'm still working on this, but I think if I perfect the methodology for trading just the natural cycles, I can do better. Now this Kelly factor is interesting. There's a book, Fortune's Formula, and it's about the work of a man named Kelly who worked at Bell Laboratories and used communications theory applied to trading. There's a Kelly number that you can compute based upon your average win, your percent of wins, the average win, the average loss. You can compute the Kelly factor. Now this number is, the Kelly factor is what percentage of your bankroll you should bet on each trade. And this is saying you should bet 40% of it. Well, I'm more conservative, but if a Kelly factor is not above 0.1, I'm never interested. Okay, so it's a little work in progress, just to show you kind of the stuff I do. I'll show you a couple more things. This TeamViewer has a whiteboard. It lets me draw lines. Unfortunately, it doesn't let me draw straight lines. Now, if you noticed on this chart, I have a grid set up, which is every 2 days and 72 ticks. If I draw from, if I try to look at the slope of line, let me take this one right here. This is down 4 to 1. Okay. From there, I go over 2 squares and down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is a down going 3 to 1. Or actually 1 by 3, because the first number should be the horizontal. Okay, there's a 3 by 1. Going up here, we just go up over 1 and up 2, so that's a 1 by 2. You come down here, we have a 1 by 3, and then from here we go up. We go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to there. So that is a 1 by 1. And those are the Gann angles, but what they really are harmonics in price and time. Okay, I'm going to clear that whiteboard and get rid of this. Oh, I have to get control of my cursor here. Are there any questions here? All right. Chart was too complex. Okay. I'm sorry. I do not control the complexity. God made this system very complex, and he also made it chaotic because there are multiple forces and multiple interactions. They're all very complex, but they can be understood, and I've developed the technology to do that. Recording now, and I'm going to end this TeamViewer session unless there are any final questions. How do you use the stop loss in this Euro chart? Gee, I closed the Euro chart. Let me see if I can get it back up here. I haven't worked yet, but let me show you the worst case stop loss on this chart. Let me get up the whiteboard and the highlighter. Once you have a cycle that turns, whoops, I need to get my cursor back here because this is just showing the price chart. And this is what you see until you start adding the energy field behind it. Okay, this is what everyone sees, and you could put all the indicators on it you want. You won't have anything independent of price. But let me just add a few things, and I'll get to that stop loss question. Okay, it's going to redraw now. And it's put the fifth harmonic of the sun on it. And these are positive and negative electric field flux lines. And fifth harmonic of the sun means 5 times a year. 1 year. As sort of a changeover. You look right here, we have a changeover. And then right over here, we had a changeover. This one coincided with the fall equinox, but is not the same as the fall equinox. The other thing I'll point out to you is that where we were looking at the harmonics or at the grid, that grid actually comes from this energy field, because if you see where these cross, that's where the 72 point levels are. This is a dynamic 72 points, but you can do things like count up how many you are up, etc. But that's the sun energy field behind this chart. And I think this will now show the moon energy field. This is similar to the one I showed you in the S&P. It's a very complex one if you don't if you try to look at this many days. But if you look at the intersections where the moon crosses, where those intersections are is where there's high energy. So that's the moon. I'm going to take that off. Okay. There's a higher frequency moon one. Yes, this is it. Now this one is quite interesting if you watch it intraday. On this level, you're getting too much information to deal with it. But I'll point out this one flux line coming down here comes down and keeps coming down. Come on, redraw here. Okay, someone's got their mic on. They got a kid in the background. Great. Love it. Okay, but you see that sort of formed a downgoing trend line, which when broken said you're going up a little bit. Okay, I'm going to take off that because if you and go back to just the trading system, all this flux stuff goes into how I develop the trading system. I have to know what the movers are, what frequencies they're transmitting on, and figure out which one I think is the strongest, and then try to design the trading system. Now your question was stop loss. When this stop and go or this stop and reverse switches over, it puts a little pipper. Now that is where the initial stop loss would go. So once this move is entered, stop loss has to go here. And then, of course, you would want to trail it by some distance, and that's not on this work in progress yet. But stop loss where that pipper is where the stop loss would go. And good example right here, this stop loss would have been hit on this long trade that didn't work. The stop loss on this short trade in here, the red are the short trades, that one would not have been hit, and we would have been reversed there. That trade lost a little bit of money. So stop loss would go here, run up to there. So as I say, that's been work in progress. Okay, whoever has the crying kid, please mute your microphone. Thank you. So that's the end of it. I'm now going to stop the recording and go back to the Chaos Clinic room and see if there's anything to see in the way I've traditionally done the Chaos Clinic. This is the first day of trying to turn it into an actual educational clinic. So we'll give you about 5 minutes to comment. I just would like you to type in the chat room what kind of rating you'd give this from 1 to 10, 1 being the worst and 10 being the best. You can't give it a 15. It's 1 to 10. I think you're greedy. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording here and turn off the session. Thanks for coming. Thanks for trying this.
Okay, that's it. Thank you for coming. If you want to learn more about my work, go to moneytide.com. If you're interested in day trading, you may want to access the Chaos Clinic on daytradingforecast.com, and that is with a plural. If you go to moneytide.com and sign up for the free weekly email, you'll get a reminder to attend the Chaos Clinic. Now on this particular day in the Chaos Clinic, I simply type in comments that goes along with this screen, and you can see what happened on daytradingforecast.com, because on that site past Chaos Clinics are archived. So if you find the link past Chaos Clinics, find the date, you can see what happened. On this particular day, after doing the webinar, I had 4 trades, a minus 5 points, a 0, a minus 0.5, and then a plus 18. I did catch the big drop at the end because the energy field had clearly shifted, and in spite of what I thought might be a dull day, dullness was followed by chaos, as it always is. So thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed this webinar, and I hope you'll come check me out a little further.